What's up, guys? Today we're going to be going over the 2017 Jaguars team and where the main players are at now. As we know, in the 2017 season, they made a very deep playoff run and ultimately fell short to the Patriots in the AFC Championship 20-24. They were a few plays away from making it to the Super Bowl, but they really did choke the whole second half. As we all know, that was really a revolutionary team for the Jaguars, and it was their best season they had had in a while. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started with the video. First up, we have their leader and quarterback, Blake Bortles. In the 2017 offseason, after throwing for 3,687 yards and 21 touchdowns for a 60% completion percentage and adding 322 rushing yards, the Jaguars would sign him to a 3-year, $54 million contract. They would very quickly regret this decision after Bortles had a horrible 2018 season and ultimately being benched to backup quarterback Cody Kessler after going 3-8. Bortles would be waived by the Jaguars after the season, but quickly be picked up by the Rams to back up Jared Goff in the 2019 season. Bortles would appear in 3 games, attempting 2 passes and completing 1 of them for 3 yards. After the 2019 season, Bortles' contract would expire and he would have stints with the Broncos, Packers, and Saints. In the 2021 season, Bortles would re-sign with the Packers and ultimately be moved up to the Packers active roster in Week 9 to back up quarterback Jordan Love against the Chiefs after starter Aaron Rodgers tested positive for COVID. The Packers would unfortunately later release him though, and Bortles briefly signed to the Saints in 2022, but ultimately he quietly retired on October 4th, 2022. Next on my list, I have AJ Bouye. He was really a lockdown corner in Jacksonville. This was the prime of his career. And unfortunately, he did not have a very long prime though. But anyways, after ending the 2017 season with 56 tackles and a whopping 6 interceptions, he would regress in the 2018 season with 54 tackles and only 1 interception. In the 2019 season, Bouye did a little better with a career high of 65 tackles, but still only 1 interception. In the 2019 offseason, Bouye was traded to the Denver Broncos for a 2020 4th-round pick. With the Broncos in the 2020 season, AJ would get suspended for 6 games for violating the league's performance-enhancing drug policy. He would finish the season with 23 tackles and no interceptions. After the disappointing season, he would be released by the Broncos, but fortunately the Carolina Panthers would take a chance on him and sign him for a 2-year, $7 million contract. Unfortunately though, after week 14 during the 2021 season, he would be placed on injury reserved with a foot injury. During the 2021 season, he was able to record 28 tackles and no interceptions, but during the offseason, the Panthers would release him, and this brings us to now where AJ Bouye is currently a free agent. Next up is defensive end Calais Campbell. He was really the foundation for the Jaguars' defensive line, put up amazing numbers during the 2017 season, and really after that, and he's still putting up amazing numbers to this day. But after the amazing season with 14.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 67 tackles, he would stay with the Jaguars for the 2018 and 2019 seasons. In those 2 years, he recorded 17 sacks, 128 tackles with 3 forced fumbles. He was really a rare bright spot during the dark seasons. As we all know, the Jaguars sucked during the 2018 and 2019 seasons. But after the 2019 season, he was traded to the Baltimore Ravens in exchange for a 5th-round pick. He is still currently on the Ravens and is pretty decent, although he is starting to slow down with age. From the 2.5 seasons he spent with the Ravens, he has recorded 11 sacks, 113 tackles, and 2 forced fumbles. For a defensive line in his 15th year and 16th season in the NFL, that is actually pretty crazy. The wear and tear the NFL has on your body, I mean, not speaking from experience, but it's pretty obvious that with a defensive lineman getting hit by grown men every single play, you would start to slow down by probably like your 7th season, but here he is in his 16th season still putting up crazy numbers. Some people think he will retire after the season, but I personally think he has one more in him, although he really does have nothing left to prove. Next up is running back Leonard Fournette. He was really the true definition of a power running back that could actually attack the air really nicely. But after a great rookie season with 1,040 yards and 9 touchdowns rushing and adding 302 yards in the touchdown through the air, Fournette looked to have a great sophomore season. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned as he missed over half the 2018 season with a frustrating hamstring injury. In the 8 games he did play, though, he racked up 439 yards and 5 touchdowns rushing, adding 185 yards and a touchdown through the air. That's actually really good for only 8 games, but it's still really unfortunate that he missed over half the 2018 season and could have put up crazy numbers that year. Fournette would ultimately bounce back during the 2019 season with 1,152 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing, adding 522 yards to the air. He was really starting to break out and was showing superstar potential, but he would for some reason be released after the 2019 season. Obviously, a team picked him up very quickly, and that team so happened to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. During the 2020 season with the Buccaneers, Fournette put up only 367 yards, but a very nice 6 touchdowns rushing and 233 yards receiving. But that was mainly because Ronald Jones took most of the snaps out running back, and Fournette was still changing over to the Tampa Bay offense and was still getting used to the plays and all that. But Fournette was mainly used as a power back, getting most of his snaps in the red zone or on short yardage situations. In the 2021 season, though, Fournette started to really turn up. He recorded 812 yards and 8 touchdowns rushing, adding 454 yards and 2 touchdowns to the air. He was really starting to take over lead back duties and was starting to establish himself in Tampa Bay. This brings us to this season, the 2022 season, where Leonard Fournette has so far recorded 640 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing, along with an insane 500 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. Although it is kind of a down year for the Buccaneers, statistically, Fournette is still putting up really good numbers. Fournette is starting to establish himself as an all-purpose running back and is proving himself to be the star he once was in Jacksonville in Tampa Bay. Next up is cornerback Jalen Ramsey. We all know that he is a superstar in the NFL today, but there was actually a really interesting backstory to where he is now. But yeah, after a great sophomore season with 4 interceptions, 17 pass deflections, and 63 tackles, Ramsey would have about 1.5 more really good statistical years with the Jaguars, recording 3 interceptions, 14 pass deflections, and 82 tackles before getting traded to the Rams about half the way through the 2019 season. This was because of a heated disagreement with the Jaguars front office. Ramsey was on the verge of a huge contract with the Jaguars, but ultimately he would demand that executive vice president Tom Coughlin to trade him. I'm not exactly sure what the disagreement was about, but Ramsey really wanted out of Jacksonville. I can't really blame him though. He was about to enter his prime and didn't want to waste it on a team that hadn't really had a winning record since his sophomore season. Since 2020 with the Rams, Jalen Ramsey has put up 5 interceptions, 25 pass deflections, and 121 tackles. So far, he has really been a superstar cornerback for the Rams and does not look to let up anytime soon. So next up, we have a player that I think is very underrated, but he played really a pivotal role in making the Jaguars have a deep playoff run, and that player would be none other than safety Barry Church. After a decent season recording 4 interceptions, 8 pass deflections, and 74 tackles, Church was an aging safety who was looking to have a couple good last seasons. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned. Through week 11 during the 2018 season, he only recorded 1 interception, 2 pass deflections, and 38 tackles. He would officially be released on December 14, 2018, after officially losing the starting safety role. His former team, the Dallas Cowboys, showed interest in him after he got released, but they never did end up picking him up, and really Barry Church could not find his way on any team, and he would ultimately retire after a disappointing last season in the NFL. Swapping over to the receivers, we have Keelan Cole. He was actually a really surprising standout in Jacksonville. Not many people expected him to step up in 2017, but he did. But yeah, after a good rookie season leading the Jaguars in receiving yards with 748 yards and also putting up 3 touchdowns, he would play for the Jaguars in the 2018, 2019, and 2020 seasons, recording 1,494 yards and 9 touchdowns. He never was able to return to his 2017 rookie season form, but he was still a decent receiver. After the 2020 season, his contract expired and he went into free agency. The New York Jets would end up picking Cole in free agency with a 1-year, $5.5 million deal. He would have an okay-ish 2021 season, recording 449 yards and a touchdown receiving. But that's not exactly what you expect from a player that you are paying $5.5 million to. Of course, he did have Zach Wilson as his QB1, and you can't really expect him to put up outstanding numbers with that terrible quarterback throwing to him. With that being said, after a disappointing 2021 season, the Jets would not re-sign him to another contract, so Cole hit the free agency market, but the Las Vegas picked him up off of free agency and took a chance on him, offering him a 1-year, $1,278,500 contract. That was a mouthful. So far, he has put up 136 yards and 1 touchdown receiving. His stats have really been bad this year, but he's also been dealing with a couple injuries, but he still played in 12 games this season, and you really expect more out of him. I expect that the Raiders will not re-sign him, but I'm sure he'll end up finding his way onto another team, whether that be a practice squad, free agency. I mean, he's really too talented to stay as a free agent. Following Keelan Cole, we have wide receiver Marquise Lee. He kind of played as the second wide receiver, but this is actually a really sad story of how injuries can plague a player in the NFL and ultimately really destroy their career. But after the 2017 season, ending it with 702 yards and 3 touchdowns receiving and finishing second on the team in receiving yards, he looked to do great things during the 2018 season. During the 2017 offseason, Marquise Lee signed a 4-year, $38 million deal with the Jaguars. Things were looking sky high for Lee until they, of course, came crashing down. During the third preseason game against the Falcons of the 2018 season, Marquise Lee had a devastating ACL tear. A few days later, he would undergo surgery to repair the ligament as well as a previously torn PCL. He missed basically the entire of the 2018 season, other than those couple of games he played before, but that was just preseason. It really doesn't matter. But after he missed basically the entire 2018 season, recovering from the major knee surgery he had, he still somehow managed to remain positive. He said that he would do everything in his power to come back during the 2019 season and that it was his ultimate goal. During the 2019 season, Lee managed to make it back, but he was still recovering from his torn ACL. He appeared in 6 games but only got 3 catches for 18 yards. During Week 8, though, Marquise Lee injured his shoulder against the New York Jets, and he would be placed on IR for the rest of the season. During the 2020 season, Marquise Lee would be with the Patriots, but he would opt out of the season due to COVID. During the 2020 offseason, Lee was cut by the Patriots because of a failed physical. He would also briefly sign with the 49ers, but would ultimately and unfortunately be cut after a week. He did end up having a workout with the Raiders, though, during the 2021 season, and it actually went very well, according to some news sources. They were saying that he could possibly earn a spot on the practice squad, but he ultimately did not end up getting a call. He is now a free agent, and this is just really a prime example of how injuries can ruin an NFL player's career. Swapping over to the defensive side of things, of course, their defensive line and outside linebacker standout, Dante Fowler Jr., was really a staple in the defense and helped alongside defensive linemen like Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell, and yeah. After a good sophomore season, recording 8 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 21 tackles, he was traded midway through the 2018 season to the Rams in exchange for a 3rd and 5th round pick. During his tenure with the Rams, he recorded 3 fumbles, 13.5 sacks, and 79 tackles. After the 2019 season, his contract with the Rams expired, and the Falcons quickly picked him up for a 3-year, $48 million contract. He would ultimately have a lackluster 2 seasons with the Falcons, recording 4 forced fumbles, 7.5 sacks, and 59 tackles. He would be ranked first on the team in sacks, but as a team, the Falcons were also ranked last in sacks, so that kind of really explains it. After the 2021 season, Fowler would be released a year before his contract expired. During the 2021 offseason, the Cowboys would take a chance on Dante and sign him to a 1-year, $3 million contract. So far in the 2022 season, Fowler has actually put up decent numbers, recording 5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 22 tackles. Hopefully the 7-year NFL vet can fully revive his career with the Cowboys and see better days ahead of him. Going back to the receiving core, we have superstar tight end Mercedes Lewis. He is probably my favorite tight end of all time, and I really could make an argument for him being the best tight end of all time. So just a little disclaimer, he doesn't have crazy good stats. They're still really good for a tight end, but they're not like crazy, but it's mainly because he's used as a smash mouth blocking tight end. But yeah, after the 2017 season, the 11-year veteran Mercedes Lewis recorded 24 receptions for 318 yards and 5 touchdowns. He was an extremely reliable check down option for quarterback Blake Bortles. During the offseason, the Jaguars strangely released him. It was extremely uncalled for and very untimely. Mercedes Lewis says he holds nothing against him, but I hold everything against the Jaguars for releasing him. After all, he was drafted and spent 11 seasons in Jacksonville and was a great blocker and put up above average numbers for a tight end. The Green Bay Packers would sign him to a one-year deal in 2018, 2019, and the 2020 seasons. After the 2020 season, the Packers finally offered him a 2-year contract. So far in his 5 seasons with the Packers, Lewis has recorded 57 receptions for 582 yards and 6 touchdowns. This isn't really off-the-chart numbers for sure, but he was also 3 years out of his prime when he left Jacksonville, so for a 16-year NFL tight end, those are actually pretty good numbers, and again, he was mainly used as a blocker. This year, Mercedes Lewis hasn't put up good numbers, but that is mainly because of his role in the offense. He is mainly used as a blocking tight end, of course, like I've been saying, and this year he has had 7 targets, and he has caught 6 of those targets for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. I do expect that he will retire this year because his contract ends after the season, and he's been in the NFL for 16 seasons, and for a tight end, that really takes a huge toll on your body, and he has nothing left to prove. Switching back to the defensive side of the ball, we have defensive end Yannick Ngakoue. After a crazy 2017 season with 6 forced fumbles and 12 sacks and 30 tackles, Ngakoue would have another 2 very good seasons in Jacksonville in the 2018 and 2019 season. He would record 4 forced fumbles and 17.5 sacks. He also got an interception along with that. After the 2019 season, he would voice his dissatisfaction with Jacksonville and wanted to play elsewhere. As a result, he declined the contract that the Jaguars offered him. The contract that they offered was a 2-year, $50 million contract, and that's actually kind of crazy that he declined that, but I guess the man wanted out. During the 2020 season, the Vikings would sign him and then trade him to the Ravens. During the 2020 seasons, he recorded 4 forced fumbles and 8 sacks. Those stats are pretty good considering the fact that he went to 2 teams in one season and had to learn 2 defenses in one season. And after the 2020 season, he wanted to be traded from the Ravens because he, quote-unquote, wasn't being utilized the right way. And he wasn't very happy about his snap count. After the 2020 season, Ngakoue would accept the 2-year, $26 million contract that the Raiders offered him, and during that season, he would earn 2 forced fumbles and 10 sacks with 28 tackles. After the 2021 season, the Raiders would trade him to the Colts in exchange for cornerback Rock Ya-Sin. As of right now, during the 2022 season, Ngakoue has forced 1 fumble, has 9.5 sacks, and 27 tackles. He said that he is very happy in Indianapolis, and that is a place that he sees himself retiring at, meaning he would like to stay there for, I guess, his entire career. Next up, we have backup running back TJ Yeldon. Of course, he wasn't the number 1 running back, but he still played a very important role behind Leonard Fournette and ultimately helped lead the Jaguars to their deep playoff run. After a good 2017 season playing the role of a number 2 and 3rd down running back, TJ Yeldon recorded 253 yards and 2 touchdowns rushing and added 30 receptions for 224 yards through the air. He would have an even better 2018 season with the Jaguars, recording 414 yards and a touchdown, with 487 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air. This was in part because Fournette was injured, but he still capitalized off that situation and put up great numbers. After the 2018 season, Yeldon's contract expired and the Jaguars did not end up re-signing him. He did end up signing a 2-year, $3,200,000 contract with the Bills. He did not do very well in his 2 seasons in Buffalo, recording only 133 yards rushing and 146 yards and a touchdown receiving. After the 2020 season, Yeldon's contract expired and the Bills did not offer him another one. He did have a workout with the 49ers in 2021, but he ultimately did not get a call and did not make the team. This brings us to now, where he is currently an unsigned free agent. Anyways, I appreciate you guys for watching to the end of the video. This is my first video, of course, so I'll try to get better. I know it really did not sound that fluent, but I will get better, and yeah.